I never understood, the bravery of those people who, those machines were around for like 5 or 6 years, and they were like, yeah, okay, no problem, I can fly over Atlantic, yeah, sure. Like, even today, if I'm in the plane, I'm like, are we sure everything is in control?
Yeah, exactly. So it's as if they came up with, with automatic planes that they're, AI operated, and the first thing you do, like, let's be the first person to cross the Atlantic in this untested new technology.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I was mid-yawn. Hi, I'm Weronika.
You are bored already?
No, I'm just tired.
I'm Waldemar, and today we are watching a video called Top 10 Historical Facts That Aren't True.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like common misconceptions or something, because I also, although it could be quite entertaining to just come up with 10 false historical facts that are like the best ever. Like, I don't know.
And I wonder if this guy that we are seeing now on the screen is the same guy that we have already watched on this channel. You know which one?
I was making a good joke and you interrupted it.
The one from the side projects.
Yeah, I think he is the same one once you...
But without the beard, right?
Yes, before the glow up.
Before the glow up?
Before the glow up.
So beard is always a glow up. So if like...
many cases, yes.
Like guy ends up on the street and he lives there for like 7 years.
No, men just age very well, very often.
Alright. So what was the joke again?
I already forgot, I'll tell you later.
Alright. What want to do?
I just wanted to say that it would be funny if it was just like completely random facts that he made up that are not true and they're the best that you can come up with. Like,
that would be good.
All penguins are hugging Weronika all the time. That's my top historical fact.
Alright, let's begin.
Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenz Net, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 historical facts that aren't actually true. Number 10. Columbus was the first European to discover America.
Yeah, I know that one. The first one were the Vikings, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think the guy is even known for his name, from his name.
The name of the Viking?
Yeah, I think
really?
I think his name is known.
While this old belief has been largely expunged from the historical record today, at one point it was believed as a fact by generations of schoolchildren and is still maintained as true by some adults even today. Of course, the truth is that the Vikings preceded Columbus by centuries and may have even built small villages in the New World hundreds of years before Columbus was born. Even if that weren't the case, however, from a purely technical perspective, Columbus never actually touched foot onto what is today the United States, spending all of his time in the East Indies. Number 9. People in Columbus's time thought that the world was flat.
No.
Closely related to the belief that Columbus discovered America.
It was Magellan who went around the world for the first time, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but with Columbus, it doesn't make sense that he would think that the world was flat, because his whole plan was to go around the other way to the Indy.
Exactly. So and he wasn't an astrophysicist that he came up with the idea that the world maybe is round. They already knew that.
But there are like myths that he wanted to go to the Indy, but something was wrong with his compass. Compass is the word in English?
Yes.
Yeah, that something was wrong with his compass, and that's why he went the other direction. But no, I don't think
that was already the plan.
The plan was to just go the other way, and they didn't expect that there would be a land there, and I think they didn't knew how large the world actually is.
Yeah, for sure, there was a lot of blanks, but on the maps, but they didn't know.
America is the belief, again less prevalent today than it was half a century ago, that most people in his day believed the Earth was flat, and if Columbus sailed too far out, he would fall off its edge. In reality, the notion that the Earth was flat had been refuted by the ancient Greeks, who were even able to calculate its circumference with astonishing precision, and so was not held to be a fact by any but the most primitive cultures at the time. Number 8. Hitler seized power in Germany by force. Many people hold the misconception that the Nazis seized...
No, he won the democratic elections because his party gained popularity after the Great Depression in the the Nazis went to power in 1933, but the Great Depression was in the 29, 30?
I think so. I think 29. I don't remember the dates, but I remember all of this from all the oversimplified witch videos that we watched.
Yeah.
That you can see on our channel if you like.
Yeah, so Hitler was elected democratically, which is like one of the most important lessons
to learn from history,
yeah.
Power in Germany, but nothing could be further from the truth. The fact is that the Nazis came to power through free and fair elections, and even used the democratic process to secure that power. In effect, Adolf Hitler, appealing to the very legitimate grievances and fears of the German people, used the ballot box to achieve the powerful position of Chancellor, and then used that very same process to destroy democracy by having the legislature grant him the emergency powers he convinced them was necessary to restore order. Number 7. The stock market crash of 1929 started the Great Depression.
I didn't know that.
Of all the misconceptions surrounding that dark era in American history, the idea that the crash of October 1929 kicked off the Great Depression is the most obstinate. The fact is that the Great Depression was caused by a number of factors, each of which went into making it a deeper and more enduring economic downturn than it would have been otherwise. Instead of letting the market make its own corrections and wait it out, they passed legislation, such as the Smoot-Hawley Act, that raised tariffs on imports, which was designed to make it cheaper to buy American products. The problem is they didn't anticipate that foreign governments would raise tariffs on American goods in response, thereby killing exports and forcing the mass closure of many factories. Bad government policies also caused many banks to fail, wiping out the life savings of millions of Americans, which further exacerbated the problem. Number 6. Japan had to attack America if it wanted to survive economically. The belief that Japan...
Kind of, but not really. If I remember correctly, the reason why the Japanese expanse happened was because they didn't have any natural resources, like oil, for example. So they wanted to take over all those islands around them.
I feel like that's what they said on the oversimplified.
Which helped them, but they knew that America would just not sit quietly about this, so I think that was the reason why they attacked them. And I don't think they were necessarily wrong about that, but maybe I'm mistaken.
And was largely forced into attacking the United States because of the crippling embargo America had imposed upon it in response to its aggression in China is debatable. Japan had 2 options available to her other than attacking the Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. First, it could have negotiated an end to her 4-year-long war with China, which Japan was unwilling to do, or it could have simply seized the oil and mineral riches of the Dutch East Indies, modern-day Indonesia, and the Malay Peninsula directly without involving America at all. Consider for a moment that if the US was unwilling to go to war in Europe to assist Great Britain in its struggle with Nazi Germany, what were the chances Congress could have been persuaded to take on the Japanese over the Dutch East Indies and Malaysia? Number 5. If Lee had won at Gettysburg, the South would have won the Civil War. It is widely believed...
Can you explain?
Explain what?
I
mean, the Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, American Civil War, and it was like a turning point after Gettysburg.
And who is the person he mentioned?
General Lee. He was the general of the Confederates, so the southern states, and he was widely regarded as the most talented general in all Civil War. Like, including North and the South, he was like a brilliant tactician, and he won battle after battle after battle, despite the fact that the South was not as rich as the North.
Okay.
And I think they had a fewer people, but I'm not sure about that. But I think he lost Gettysburg against the General Grant. I think it was General Grant.
How do you remember all of this?
I'm not sure if it was Grant. But yeah, I don't know that much about the Civil War, so I don't know if this was like, if he would win the Gettysburg, he would win the Civil War. To be honest, I don't think so, because the economical difference between South and North was too much for the South. Like, they could not
sustain a longer war as well later.
If I remember correctly, but like I said, I don't know that much.
Union victory at Gettysburg in July of 1863 prevented the North from complete collapse, but a careful look at the overall strategic situation at the time demonstrates this to have been unlikely. First, even if Lee had routed Meade's army at Gettysburg, it would have come at considerable cost, especially considering the number of Union troops Lee faced, over 90,000 compared to his own 70,000 men. This means that even if he had been victorious, Lee would have emerged from the battle with a largely exhausted and depleted force left with which to march on Washington almost 100 miles away. Additionally, Gettysburg would have been only the first in a string of obstacles he would have had to overcome as he moved east. Eventually, he would have to retreat back into Virginia in any case, and though he could add another Confederate victory to the long list of victories Lee had enjoyed up to that point in the war, the South simply couldn't match the North's almost unlimited industrial capability and was doomed to eventually lose in any case. Number 4,
so I remember something.
Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves.
No.
Most students grow up believing that the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves, but it did no such thing. First of all, it only applied to slaves living within the Confederate States, and since the North had no power to enforce the proclamation in those territories not under its direct control, it really had no immediate effect on freeing anyone. In fact, it didn't even free those slaves in the northern states, where slave ownership, while uncommon, was still legal. It was only illegal to buy and sell slaves in the North, not own them. It would take the 13th Amendment, ratified in 1865, to do that, and it applied throughout the country, not just parts of it. Number 3, Lindbergh was the first person to fly across the Atlantic. While Lucky Lindy won fame and fortune for his daring solo jaunt across the Atlantic in 1927, he was far from the first to cross the ocean by air. In fact, 2 British pilots, Alcock and Brown, had made the crossing years earlier in a repurposed RAF bomber. They flew from St. John's, Newfoundland to Galway, Ireland in just under 16 hours in 1919. That flight paved the way for commercial transatlantic aviation and made Lindbergh's future flight possible.
Did you see on the newspaper that they were flying sometimes upside down in the fog?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's just... Oh my god, maybe I would fly, but does it count if you faint halfway through and then die? Does it still count as the first person to do it?
Yeah, but it wasn't that bad as it is today with those, modern planes. When you have those, the G-force, that makes you faint because you have you weigh.
No,
so
I'll
much.
just be so scared. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that.
I never understood, the bravery of those people who, those machines were around for 5 or 6 years, and they were like, yeah, okay, no problem. I can fly. Over Atlantic? Yeah, sure. Even today, if I'm in the plane, I'm like, are we sure everything is in control?
Yeah, exactly. So it's as if they came up with with automatic planes that they're AI operated, and the first thing you do let's be the first person to cross the Atlantic in this untested new technology.
Yeah, some people are like the guy who jumped from the space. I
So
understand
epic,
that you want to be the first one to do that, but you have to have so much trust in science, in technology, and also in other people that they didn't fuck anything up.
And in yourself, and no.
Further, just a couple of weeks after the British duo had made their flight, the British airship R-34, with a couple of dozen crew and passengers on board, made a double crossing, taking about 4 days to cross both ways. In fact, by the time Lindbergh made his world-famous crossing, close to 80 men had already made the epic journey. His, however, was done entirely solo, and clocking in at almost 34 hours of straight flying time was a far more challenging and grueling feat. Number 2, Custer's 7th Cavalry was wiped out at Little Bighorn. While many assume that Custer's entire command was wiped out at the Battle of Little Bighorn in June of 1876, the truth is that less than half of the 647 men under his command were killed in the famous battle. The reason for this was twofold. First, some of his men were assigned to drive and guard the lengthy wagon train that followed in the army's wake, and so were too far away at the time to be involved. And secondly, Custer had divided his command between himself and Major Reno in an effort to make a two-pronged attack. Reno's assault, which preceded Custer's by an hour or so, was driven off with heavy casualties, but most of it emerged from the battle intact. It was only those companies that rode with Custer, about 210 men in all, that were entirely wiped out. Number 1. The USA was chiefly responsible for defeating Germany in World War I and World War II. While American...
I wanted to ask you what you think about that.
No, I mean, it's like a general consensus that it was Russia in the Second World War who contributed mostly, but, well, they helped the Germans first, so there's also that.
I think it's like we spoke about it when we were watching the other videos. It's for sure the general idea in the society that once they joined, that's when we had the chance to win, but not maybe that they were the only people who...
I mean, it contributed vastly because, yes, the main collapse of the German army was because of the Russia and the fight on the Eastern Front, but we don't know what would happen if the Germans didn't have to also look out on the Western Front, on the English and the Americans. So there's that. And I think the most important factor is that the Russians wouldn't be able to do shit if not for America and the amount of the equipment that America sent them, food, equipment, like worth billions of dollars. And without that, I think probably Russia would starve or would defend themselves with the sticks. So technically Russia, but I think the USA input in the Second World War was enormous. And about the First World War, I don't know that much, but I think they, well, how do you say it? They advanced it. The defeat of the Germans became much more
faster and easier. Yeah.
But with the Second World War, the First World War, I don't know who is mostly responsible for the defeat of Germany.
Maybe we need to rewatch some videos or something else.
Material and military support was imperative and likely ensured an eventual Allied victory. It was others who bore the brunt of the fighting against Germany in both wars. In World War I, the US was late to the show, not making it to France in significant numbers until late in 1917. It was the British and French who had been doing all of the fighting up until then and had battered the Germans by the time the US entered the fray. In the Second World War, things were much the same, with American troops not arriving in theatre until very late in the war. While they fought largely rearguard actions in North Africa and Italy, by the time they landed in force in France in June 1944, the Germans were already reeling from the massive Soviet juggernaut that was rolling over them from the east. In fact, over 80% of all German casualties in World War II came on the Eastern Front. While it was the US that was chiefly responsible for defeating Japan in the Pacific, it was the Soviet Union that did most of the heavy lifting in Europe.
Do you know, by the way, that the only other army that went to Berlin, who captured the Berlin, besides Russia, were the Poles?
Oh, really?
It was Russian army and Polish army. So we were the ones who took the Berlin. It was like a bittersweet moment after all those years. Yeah, but what he doesn't mention is also the fact that US not only supplied Russia with equipment, they also supplied the Great Britain.
Yeah.
And even before the 44, 43, from basically from the beginning.
From the start they were contributing, right? For France and for...
Yeah, there is even this weird case, if you remember it maybe, that Churchill asked Roosevelt.
It was. Can I try to remember? Was it the one that they were transporting the weapons and they had to use some strange method because it was not legal horses?
Horses, yeah.
It works.
Yeah, because
not very well, but it works.
Very well, nice. Because of some political contracts, political agreements, Roosevelt told Churchill that in fact they can send them the weapons that they previously bought from England previously bought from the United States, but they would have to use horses to cross the Germany between Canada and the United States, use those horses to carry these guns to Canada, and only from Canada they could take it to the England, which just shows you how ridiculous sometimes politics are. Yeah, it's a nice video, and a couple of the things I didn't know. And I have one question about this Custer guy. If you can tell me, or I will look it out myself, but if you want, you can tell me.
What is this battle?
what was this war? I think it was American-Mexican War, but I'm not sure. It's not the Civil War because he said it was the 1870 something, and it is after the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know American history that well, so if you can tell me what conflict that was.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to know.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting video. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much. And if you can suggest, as we always ask, other historical channels to us as well, that would be awesome. So any specific videos or just channels in general that you like, please let us know.
Because like we said, we are always reading your comments, and many of you suggested things already that we have already watched on this channel. Well, thank you guys, and have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.